Welcome back to the very first EMC Monday Mastermind of 2026. We're Every Move Collective. Really glad that you're here. We're going to be talking about mastering the art of storytelling with our guest, James Sharp. So before I introduce him, just a brief reminder for those of you who don't know us, myself, my mom, Eva, here on the call, my brother, Dylan. We run a top producing team out of Westchester County, New York, and Connecticut, as well as Los Angeles now, which is where I live. And we've got some other team members here on this call. We run the amazing organization of Every Move Collective at eXp Realty, which brings you these bi-monthly masterminds. We do them on the second and fourth Monday of every month. So they're here to foster learning, networking, community. We always have a different guest on teaching on a different topic. So you can tune in when you love the topic, or you can just tune in if you want to really develop relationships within this space. So hope you're all having a great start to your year, great Monday, great week. We encourage you to be as conversational as possible. So feel free to use the chat, raise your hand and jump in whenever, ask questions. And if you're able to turn your cameras on, please do. And we'd love to hear from you in the chat where you're tuning in from. So please just drop your market in the chat so we know who's in the room. And without further ado, I am excited to introduce James. So, James is a colleague of ours from our networking group that we've been a part of for the past year. It's been such a pleasure getting to know him. He is a top agent out of Dallas, Texas. He's been in this business for 24 years with over 1,500 closed transactions under his belt, valued at, 400 million. He has mastered the art of telling stories to build rapport and help in the process of establishing trust to really get those clients across the finish line and close hundreds and hundreds of home sales. So today we're going to discuss really the elements of impactful storytelling, do's, don'ts, how to really properly frame your story for maximum impact, and how to use this skill to build trust. So James, I'll let you kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself and then we'll get going. I know you have a presentation. You should be able to share your screen.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, ladies, first and foremost, and Happy New Year, everybody. Hope 2026 is your best year ever. That is one of the first and foremost things. I'm so no pressure now, but the very first Zoom call of the new year. So they put me in the front of the line, but I'm excited to share with you some experience of using storytelling, crafting a great story, a good message. In fact, I'm already off to the races. I've closed 2 deals this morning. So my word of the year is strengthen. And so I want to help you guys strengthen your storytelling, your salesmanship and saleswomanship, if you will, your skill set, because it's the skills that pay the bills, and the skill set is something that if you're constantly honing that stuff, the power of the mastermind here. And that's why these kind of Zoom calls work so effective. So I'm excited to share with you guys.
Excited to have
Thank
you here.
you.
Yeah. Let me get started. I mean, I'll tell you a little story. I mean, my last name is Sharp. So when I was a little boy, I would run around in a very awesome polyester suit. I didn't realize how awesome and fashionable it was until it wasn't. But a black polyester suit, and I would go anywhere outside, and I would be all dressed to nines, and I would tell everybody, "I'm a sharp boy. I'm a sharp boy." And it was my dad's pride and joy because his last name is Sharp, and he's like, "Yeah, that's my son, James Sharp, the Sharp Man." And to this day, the ladies here know, Kobe and Eva say, anytime they see me, they look at me, then they look down because they always say, "You got some fashion on your feet, don't you?" And just so we are clear, I'm not your average bear. So I wear fun, decorative shoes, ornate shoes, but they kind of create a storytelling atmosphere. And it's the sharp shoe guy whenever I go out in public and stuff, any of the events that I'm at, conferences and so forth. But I think it was part of that storytelling and kind of crafting some of our, power strengths that even overheard somebody say, "Hey, you should have James talk about storytelling. That's like his superpower." So kind of want to tell you one of the things that really got me thinking about this because in real estate, and I'm assuming pretty much everybody on this call is a real estate agent. Everybody a real estate agent or in real estate as a general? Okay, perfect. So I'm talking to the peanut gallery here, us combined independent contractors, right? 1099, baby, all the way. But what I've always found is the facts will tell, the stories will sell. I'll say that again. The facts will tell. So you want to be factual. You want to be a business consultant. You want to advise and give accurate information when you're reporting out on a property. You want to give the details and stuff. But it's those stories that I really find sell. And what I'm going to be talking about is, why does storytelling matter so much? And I had to kind of go back and go behind the curtain, kind of Oz in the Wizard of Oz, kind of say, hey, what was the secret sauce? Why does storytelling work so well? And I found in my experience, 24 years, over 1,500 sales, as you heard, there is a certain kind of a recipe to follow. And so I'm going to talk about the recipe of storytelling and how I follow it on virtually every transaction. Now, obviously, there's certain key things we're going to talk about, but one of the best things I would say is storytelling builds rapport. One of the things you want to build with everybody that you're talking to, whether it's a first time introduction or somebody that you haven't maybe been in contact with for a while, and you're reintroducing to them, like they've come out, hey, 5 years ago you sold us a house, or you sold my brother a house, and I want to get connected with you. But it builds that rapport, and rapport builds trust. Without trust, guys, nothing gets sold. In 2026, it's how it is. 10, 20 years later, it's going to be that still foundation. Without trust, without rapport, nothing really transacts. And it doesn't matter what part of the country y'all are at. Oh, I just threw a little Texanism in there. You heard that, y'all? So don't hold that against me. But some of that is actually part of my storytelling. I wasn't born in Texas. I was actually born in Michigan, born in Flint, Michigan. So I came out of that very fun, awesome place with awesome water and awesome people and stuff and awesome surroundings, to say, I survived Flint to move to Texas. So I've been here since 2000, so 26 years, but I've brought in a little bit of Texas slang to my storytelling. And that's part of what I'm going to be talking about, is establishing trust is really foundational on being authentic. So one of the things you're going to be key on is, when you're telling stories, is be authentic. You can obviously protect the innocent. So when I'm telling stories, I don't always tell, like, hey, this is my client's credit score, or this is how much they paid for the house, or this and that. Protect the innocent, change the facts if needed and stuff there. You don't have to disclose everything. But like the case in point today, the couple I helped, I shared with them a story of another couple I just helped like 2 months earlier. Virtually same buying situation. They're buying a multi-family, multi-generational piece of property, over 8 acres. So I said, hey, I know this is a special deal for you guys, just like it was. I had a couple I just helped, and they're actually moving 4 generations of family into this parcel of land here outside of this, city of Dallas. And so by sharing that common thread, hey, I just had a client do what you guys are asking me to do now with you, and they were referred to me. It built up immediate rapport and built up trust. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. And then one of the things I'd say too, is it kind of set the tone for our transaction, our interactions. A lot of times I would say we're asked to do a very somewhat complex transaction, buying a house, especially in some of you guys' markets. I know in New York, it could be a little bit, very complex. There's a lot of, details you got to be careful about, certain disclosures in certain markets and so forth there. In our market, the same thing. We have to really protect all the parties there, repair amendments and so forth aside, inspection reports, appraisals. So by doing that, you kind of set the tone. So when I'm working with a buyer and you've got 2 sets of lanes, you guys will probably work with both buyers and probably work with both sellers. And sometimes you'll have a seller that will start out with you as a seller, flips over to the buyer, right? So you got to kind of almost change lanes with them, change swim lanes, to go from, I know when we were talking about selling your house here, but now we're over here with the sale, and is different than when we're putting the buyer hat on and so forth. And then I like the idea of, it takes the complexity and a lot of times we'll make it so it's easily digestible. Does that make sense? I say that a lot too. Does that make sense? And I'm nodding. And when you're doing the storytelling, that's also some good verbal cues. When you want to do anything, when you're kind of explaining or using a story, I usually make sure to put some of the key points of storytelling because you want to look the person in the eye. You want to be authentic. I don't make up BS stuff, you know. Now, you can always borrow if you need to. Hey, I had a friend who had this experience, or I had an agent that had this just happen in our office. And sometimes, do we have any new agents less than 2 years in the industry? Okay, cool. It's all right. Hey, one little ranger out there, Caleb. Good job. You could do a lot of the kind of fake it till you make it to a point. But one of the things I would say is got to be careful on the storytelling and when you're kind of doing that rapport building to make sure you don't go down into a slope where they're like, well, you said, Caleb, this was this. And then you're like, oh boy, did I just open myself up some liability? So but one of the things that I did when I was first getting started is I would say I was very attuned to finding out what people were doing that was successful around me and then kind of sharing those common themes. Because to me, there's elements of a good story. And I kind of go back to Hollywood in the thinking of, you know, any good movie, there's always like some sort of situation. There's always some sort of somebody's in trouble. So there's a crisis, something happens. And then you identify who are the key players or the heroes or heroines in the process. And then there's some resolution. How does this get resolved? How do they get, who saves the day? You know, in this case, you as agent, hopefully you've painted yourself in that picture of like, hey, people have come to me going through a divorce, for example. They're not sure what to do. And say, hey, I've been there, done it. I get you. And I'm here to support you. I've had a lot of clients go through this. I will get you through this. At the end, you'll be happy that we were introduced to each other and I got you. When you do that, it kind of outlines what they can expect from you as a salesperson and what they can expect throughout the transaction. Because you want to be also following through with some expectations. You want to make sure that you constantly are giving the little nudges as needed there. And I find sometimes elements of storytelling really will help kind of advise and also caution, especially if you got somebody that maybe they're just kind of getting into their first deal. Like I had a couple today that's bought, they're buying their very first house. So I used a couple stories at the very beginning, our first time going out looking at houses. I'd say, hey, just so that you know, finding a house and identifying it is a process of elimination. You're eliminating what you don't want. So when you see what you do want, you know, it will come to the top and you'll be like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And I said, I've had a lot of clients who also missed this key point and then went into my storytelling. Like, for example, and I would take them in front of a house that I was showing in Dallas, Texas. And I said, look over here. Oh my gosh, what is that? That's a water tower. Okay, that's going to negatively affect the resale value of your house. And they're not even thinking that. They're like, oh my gosh, I've seen everything on Zillow. I want to go look at a million houses. And they're not considering little cues. So for me as an established realtor and the storyteller is to put a little advisory cautionary tale, a little story twist that say, hey, I've had a lot of people who get really excited and then I'm kind of critiquing or refining the house and the whole surroundings and making sure that, hey, we don't get you into money pit. We don't get you into something that you can't sell later. That is going to be a good investment of your time and resources. Does that make sense, folks? Q. And we going at a good spot here. Everybody's following me. I'm seeing some
Yes.
nods. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm
Cool.
curious to
Yes.
hear from the audience. Like, how many people, like, show of hands or in the chat, like, feel like they're a natural storyteller? Like, who already is using this skill? Margaret, you are?
Yep.
There's a lot of people in here who are not, that maybe aren't and Peggy, maybe I saw your hand up over there. I know you're a storyteller, Peg. Scott, cool. Okay, so there's some people in here who have some
We
experience
have
with it, and some
Scott
people who
raised
Some
are
his hand
thumbs
as
up from
well.
Anthony. Yeah.
approaching learning this skill for the first time. It's good
Yeah.
to kind of get the gauge.
I have a quick
Yeah.
question actually before we move on.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
what's the one thing you would say differentiates just having a conversation? Like what you're talking about sometimes right now sounds like to me, oh, that's just a conversation. Um, however, it really is a story. and you're weaving in different things. So, like, what makes you recognize that it's storytelling?
Yeah. So a couple of key points at the very beginning, you always want to kind of act and do some fact finding. You kind of open and questions. You don't want to just give them an opportunity for yes or no, but you want to expand. So one of my awesome questions to get started is, hey, just tell me what you're expecting in this real estate transaction and shut the front door. Okay, shut up, because then they will tell you kind of what they are looking for. And they may need a couple prompts and stuff. Well, okay, I understand this is going to be like your first house, but hey, have you had any friends that recently bought a house, and have they shared anything good or bad with you? Again, good insights or something. Or if I'm going on a listing appointment, Eva, what I will do is I say, hey, just that I can fully engage and serve you the best of my abilities, express to me what it is that you're looking for in a real estate agent, or what was your best experience working with an agent in the past if they've done multiple deals. And those things kind of lead into some good content that I can then create and weave a story. Or like last night, I was taking notes because I had a referral given to me. It's a lady, she's a teacher. So immediately I'm writing down teacher, 20 plus years in teaching, looking to move out of the city. She's 200 miles away. So it's going to be new circle of friends, new surroundings, all this stuff. And I'm kind of making myself notes. So when I meet them, I will have certain stories ready to go saying, hey, I've had a lot of teachers. They are really keen on these three things. And I will use that as a weave of a story and stuff there. So it kind of takes it from just being a conversation to something that's with intent. Because I think when you're with a really good storyteller, there's a lot of intentionality to it versus, hey, how's the weather? Oh, it's fine. And you don't give any thought to it. I'm very consistent in that. I'm very intentional with whatever I am asking question wise, but it's a good thought.
I love that. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think too, the key there, I kind of talked about the distinction. So let's talk through like buyers again, because I find buyers are one that are really a great group to work with. Anybody works exclusively with buyers here? You guys do both? Dual agent? Hey, I can do buyers and sellers. Cool. I find I love buyers, especially like the couple today that bought their first place, they're buying their first house and stuff. And I will say a lot of kind of confirming stories to them and confirming facts that I've also come across doing over 1,500 sales. I have to say, that kind of sometimes my resume or pedigree comes into discussion or the storytelling. I will kind of tell them, look, I have been here. I've done this. This is like I just woke up yesterday and decided I'm going to get a real estate license. Been doing this now a couple of decades, 1,500 sales. So that's with some intent, because one of the biggest things that people have is this need to know, like, hey, are you good at what you do? Do you care about me? And can I trust you? Those three questions. And so I'm immediately going, hey, I care about you. I know what I'm doing, and I'm good at what I am doing. And I'm going to follow you through a process that I've taken a lot of people through. And when they kind of have that, I can immediately see their ease of the tension, their ease of their, oh my gosh, he's not just a schleppy salesman that's whipping around all over creation, trying to get me out of the deal and stuff there. So I love it. Are you getting that kind of nuggets there? The other thing is I'm also sharing some positive outside stories. So what I found is, like, when I was working with this couple, they came to me through a referral through my mortgage guy. And he's like, hey, they just got out of a bad deal with a bad, unexperienced agent. So I'm coming in that with some insights. So they don't know I know that from my mortgage, introduction. So I go there and I said, hey guys, just tell me, what gets you to me here? What's like, if I pull back the curtain, wave a magic wand, get you what you're looking for in this deal, what does that look like? And they're like, oh my God, we just had a horrible experience. They didn't know what they're doing. They got us in a bad neighborhood, bad deal with a bad builder. Builder was just sideways. Everything went bad. And they're kind of telling me what they are looking for in a real estate agent, and also giving me some insights as, hey, what stories can I then offset those concerns and then bring them to the home of where I'm going to be in a couple of weeks here. And all this happened in the matter of a few weeks. So sometimes your stories could really be that impactful that you get a call to action. They want to exercise on it and ready to go. They were ready to buy. The other agent had strung this thing out so bad that they just they finally had to just bust contract, start over, and they're like, and we listened to Michael beginning, we would be already in the house, enjoying the house for the holidays. Now we're having to wait and go through holidays and through all this extra stuff to get there. So it was very interesting. And to me, the crafting of the message after that, the narrative, I got their insights of what they were looking for, their concerns, and then I crafted a couple well-placed stories in the mix of them and just say, hey, I just helped a couple, had very similar things as you. And here is the story of Renee and Tom. And I kind of, I told them little nuggets of what, they were, doing some research, doing their due diligence. But then when they really came push the shove, they were relying on me. Hey, is this a good builder? Is this a good neighborhood? Is this a good buy? And I was kind of coaching them because I wanted that outcome. I wanted them to know like, hey, I got you. That message is coming through in the stories and then all the support. And then you can always reach out to me throughout the transaction, whether it's a call, note, or text, and say, hey, I have a question about this. What do you think? Or how would you handle this? And that was really established with the storytelling at the beginning. And then I do like the idea of flipping it over to sellers. So if we have a few minutes, let's talk a little bit about the sellers, because buyers, I find they kind of go down a certain path. And then, sellers can sometimes be, especially in our market. I don't know if your market is such, but it's taken a little longer to sell. It used to be where I put a sign and 5 seconds later, sell it, have multiple offers and look like the hero, woohoo, and stuff. Now it's actually more of a professionals market, at least in Dallas. I'm not sure what your days on market is, but we're running about 4 months of inventory in Dallas. So when I'm visiting with sellers, I'm having to make sure to educate them. And the best way I can educate them is to tell them some facts, but also tell them some stories, like in the trenches kind of stories. And I find when you're doing that, you're kind of establishing a couple of things, because they're kind of wanting to know, again, that whole care. Do you care about me? But also, are you a competent agent? So I'm kind of double dipping and hitting on the emotional side, but also on the competence and the professional side. And I find with storytelling for sellers is also kind of the same kind of narrative, though I tend to have different stories for sellers than I do for buyers. So case in point, I have a lot of sellers. I'm sure this has never happened to anybody else on this call, but when I've gone in the house, it's not ready for market. Anybody understand what I'm talking about there? It's ugly as you know what. And what you got to do is a lot of times have that tough conversation. Okay. Well, what I find is helpful is then I will tell a story. Hey, I understand. Like I just had this with a past client of mine. I went in the house, total bachelor cave. Okay. Bachelor, bachelor, bachelor. This is not the same house I sold them 5 years ago. I don't know what the hell happened, who dumped a big load in the living room, but it was bad. And I had to tell him, look, you had me come help you 5 years ago. I'm coming back as your trusted advisor, but let me tell you a story. And I particularly went through that with the caution of, hey, we would be best suited to do some stuff now and prep this house for sale by taking some stuff out of the house, clearing out some clutter, putting some efforts into updates, painting the walls, changing out that ugly ass tile. You know what I'm saying? There are certain things that, I crafted stories around. Just say, hey, just had a client just do this remodel in their kitchen. They spent 25, but they made 50,000 in outcome sales and it sold quicker. How's that sound? Oh yeah, that sounds awesome, James. And I'm then, hey, I had a client that just changed all their stiletto tile out and they put in the luxury vinyl plank LVP. And it wasn't that much expense, but it made it look like $1 million inside. And then I'm using that as a story and also kind of a little salesmanship there. And so that I'm kind of creating the narrative throughout the, sometimes the walkthrough of the house. Sometimes you got to think quickly on on your feet, folks. And sometimes this is stuff that just comes through a little bit of experience and practice. But I find that if you go into it with the understanding, is like, hey, what is my outcome for this interaction? If I'm going to meet my past client, I want to set him up for success. I don't also want to piss him off to the point where he has no interest in dealing with me anymore. Oh, James, you're just a complainer. You just think my house is shit and that I'm not going to be able to good. No, no. I always will try to, hey, can I give you some good advice? Can I, I'll tread lightly here. I'm not going to try to step on, but do you want the honest truth? And I would tell them, hey, here's what we got to do. We got to paint it. We got to carpet it. We got to do some clearing up in order for us to have the best success, best outcome we want. And I have clients that do this, have followed my instructions and have good success. How's that sound for you? And I've kind of just used storytelling to support my expertise and my salesmanship. So I would say big difference there with working with buyers. A lot of times you're trying to handhold, walk them through the process, have concerns addressed, to having sellers who, hey, sometimes I have anybody have that seller is just cut to the chase, just cut to the facts, very New Yorker style. Just cut to the bottom line. Where do I need to sign? I'll sign it. Just cut. What do you need? And then what I find, if I get one of those, like I had last year, I had one that was referred to me. He was just that type, and he used to live in New York, Eva. So he was just go, go, go. Like throughout the listing appointment, he was on his phone probably more than he was talking to me. Anybody have that where it's like, dude, I'm right here. Can you put the phone down for a second? Call the people, whatever. But he was like, yeah, right. And then at the end, he's just like, well, can you just handle this? What if I give you my card? You just handle. And so sometimes you'll have people that will really, it doesn't matter what you tell them story wise, what you share with them. They're just kind of ready to go. They've already said, hey, take me. Here's my money. Here's my checkbook. Let's go. I don't then beat them up with a bunch of stories to be like, no, I got you, bud. I'm going to do it. And then, so I took care of that, got them, sold them, boom, easy going. So I'm hoping this is kind of putting some good perspective there and some thoughts there. Because when I was talking to Eva the other day, she was like, I don't think I'm really in that much in storytelling. But then we started replaying some stories. She's like, well, I do that. And I have shared that. And I think part of you guys is you're probably a better storyteller than you give yourself credit. So I'm just saying is what you may want to do is kind of look at that third person, little bit of perspective on your next interaction and say, hey, is there anything I can do to improve that? Can I improve my storytelling? Can I improve my, use of examples and that build rapport and stuff? So that makes sense.
Definitely.
Very good.
I have a question.
Yeah,
So
sure. Go.
obviously, every client that someone works with in real estate is going to have unique features to their particular home, what they're looking for, their deal, etc. But a lot of it can be really rinse and repeat. So I'm wondering how often do you have like a story bank, like stories that you find that you use really frequently? And like, do you come to like a buyer consult or a listing consultation like with those story prepared, and like are they weaved into what you present, like you know as a kind of like a part of your presentation?
I do. I find that it is good to have some good old like stories. And I started out this Zoom call with a couple right off the bat, like, hey, when I was a little boy, I used to do this all the time. And when you share stuff like from your childhood or something, everybody has that same experience of childhood. They may remember it differently and stuff there, but that's one that I'm almost always incorporating. Or the story of how I got into real estate, that was one that I've used multiple times because people are always like, well, how did you get in real estate? I said, I almost died because the agent wasn't paying attention. That was driving me and my newly minted wife when in oncoming traffic. This is a true story. Oncoming traffic. He had the brick cell phone. So he was on his cell phone. He was smoking a cig and he was reading the map scope, the map book. And he clearly was misdirected because he went into the oncoming traffic across the median, Northwest Highway in Dallas, Texas. And we got cars. It's something like out in the movies, right? Cars are smashing on the horn, and swerving and stuff. And he's like, oh, and he drops his cig in his lap. He burns himself in his suit. Oh my God, it's funny. And I'm like, stop the car. The showing's over. And I tell him, take us back to the hotel. This guy proceeds like, I'm sorry. I'm like, you should not, you're a menace to society, let alone a bad real estate agent. And I said to myself then, and told the wife at the time, if this Yahoo could sell real estate, there's something wrong with this real estate industry, and I'm going to do something about it. Be careful what you say because it can come to pass. So here we are 25 years later, and I'm like, wow, here we go. But he's no longer in the business, but literally that experience, because people will say, well, I had a bad experience with the agent. Oh, tell me about it. And then I can go into that story, Colby. I could share that example. I'm like, hey, that's how I got into real estate to begin with. Guy almost tried to kill me, at least I won't try to kill you. And they're laughing and stuff there. And sometimes I'll share a story to kind of break the ice, to break that, kind of tension, like, that first date, the awkwardness, ladies, where he's showing up and he's like, well, what do you like? What movies do you like? Where do you, like to eat and stuff? It's weird, right? And so if you could do a story, like I told on the date I told her about Jennifer, the guy that pretended to be a girl to get a date with me. Oh, that was a great story, but it's true. And that date, she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, no, but we broke the ice. We had that little bit of brevity, that little fun, that laughter. And like, you're not anyways, it was kind of fun because regardless of where you're at in life, sometimes a good story will break the ice, will start the conversation, will build that trust, build that rapport, and also communicate. I think one of the key ingredients to this call is that you are here to help. A lot of people desperately need our help, folks, in 2026. And if you stop and just take a moment to understand, there's only so much AI is going to do. There's only so much they can do on their phone. Yeah, we're not selling toilet paper, guys. Now, I think real estate's the new toilet paper, and I think we're going to see super incredible sales in the next 12 to 18 months. My job today and my goal for you is to give you some tips, some thoughts of how to incorporate some storytelling to capture that little piece of the pie and to take it home and convert it and stuff. So, but yeah, good question, Colby. Yeah, I have some stuff on the ready, depending on the situation, depending on the audience. And then I definitely want to hit on some do's and don'ts, because I think that's one of the things too, is I couldn't do a call like this without saying certain things you definitely want to do and certain things you want to avoid like the plague. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what I really thought through is like, what is something I wish somebody would told me when I first got licensed was to be authentic. I've been a lot more authentic in the last 5 years through some personal development growth and also having a lot of life given to me. I'm not going to go into bad stuff, but I'm just like, I've lost loved ones in my life. And when you have that sincere loss, when it's so close to you, it really has you re-evaluating life in general. And I was basically told at that point, dude, you got to be you. You be you, James. Take care of you for me. So it's okay if you're a newer agent. I know Caleb said, hey, less than a couple years in the business, I'm good, but I don't have probably 1,500 stories under my belt, or 1,500 sales. That's okay. You're probably around a group of professionals. There's definitely a bunch on this call. I recognize some of the people and the names on there that can share their experience with you. I would definitely say okay to borrow somebody else's stories. It's okay to borrow something that you maybe seen. Just when you do that, And I've done it too, where I'm like, hey, I had an associate in the office just last month, had this same thing happen, and here's how they resolve it. Would you like me to see if I can connect with the same person that helped that client help you? And I just used somebody else's story as an example, as a cautionary tale, and then brought that in. What you don't want to do is fake it, be inauthentic, just lie through your teeth, because people will see it, they'll witness it, they'll feel it immediately. Hope you guys are feeling my authenticity here. I'm showing and sharing with you, like, don't make stuff up just to make stuff up. Okay. I know it may be tempting. Like, yeah, I sold a house down the street in 5 seconds, blah, blah, blah. And it sold for, a gazillion dollars over asking. And yeah, we have 15 offers when you have three, you know, try to, pull that stuff in. Now I find too, one of the big no-nos is being off color, being too political, playing down a path of going down the religious or the judgmental or anything that's stereotypical or something that's going to actually be racially profiled or racially interpreted. Those are all things, big no-nos. Don't do it. I find if you follow me on social, you do anything, follow me and stuff there, even my stories, everything I share and stuff, I'm always trying to keep it super positive, super practical, super authentic, like, hey, I have a flair for shoes. So you guys will see me in shoes, you'll see me in fun pairs and stuff there. That's me. But there's certain things that I will definitely not do, but I will also, one of the things I find is sometimes that little self-deprecation is a good kind of lowering of you know, the guard, if you will, and it allows people to come to you. And I'll do that sometimes. I'll be like, I did a crazy thing. I just told my client today, I said, I almost caused a third accident because I was caring more about trying not to be late, but I wasn't looking at where I was going and stuff. And I kind of, the situation where I almost ran into somebody, I was like, yeah, yeah. And I just had to remember, take a deep breath and chill and, self-deprecate. But they're like, I know, I just do the same thing on the way over here too with the kiddos, and they were yelling this and that. So sometimes there's some intentionality with sharing, but you don't want to overshare. How often have you seen the person that's sharing every 5 seconds where they're at? They're at the Starbucks, or they're at the, getting their order, or they're sharing all the bad stuff with their husband, all the dirty laundry that this, person slid them wrong. I don't think that's got a place here, especially in our real estate industry, so you want to make it appropriate, make it sure where it has an audience, kind of read the room, if you will. We got that last month, right, Eva? We were like in this big room of professionals from all over, but the people that were sharing your things were, read the room, make sure you bring something appropriate and that's something that everybody can get too. Because nothing like sharing a story and they're just looking at you like, say, what? What'd you say? So hopefully that's helpful. Good stuff there. Do we have any questions? Anybody that's got some questions there?
I was going to jump in here, James, and just add in the conversation we were having. One of the things I've always done is I'm always looking for the 6 degrees of separation, because I find the older I get, the closer that closes in on me, and it's similar, right? I'm looking for 6 degrees of separation so I can tell a story about it. Like if you're from the Bronx, I was born in the Bronx, I can tell you something about that. So it really goes hand in hand.
It really
Looking for that
does.
commonality and storytelling.
Yeah, and I was sharing with you, my favorite book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It talks a lot about stories in there too. You want to kind of ask questions and get some of that storytelling from your clients. So having them tell you some stories too, hey, what was it like for you buying your first house? If somebody's bought, 15 houses, and what was it about that house that you loved? What was your favorite experience with working with the real estate agent? I mean, like, having those kind of prompting questions, they will share a lot with you that you can then incorporate and use to help them get to where they need to be.
Yeah,
So
that's a great tip because I'm actually working with a client currently who I know has done several transactions in their life. And I never considered asking them, like, what did you like or not like about those transactions? Because all of that is information for me to understand better and be able to serve them better. You invite them to tell you stories, basically. It's
Yeah.
like,
And
you
who
know,
you
you're not the
know
only storyteller in the room, right? Like they can share
exactly. And I
lots
think
of other
that
things.
is the mark of a good experience, a good client experience, because we should all have the hat of, hey, I want to make sure my clients have the best experience of working with, ABC Realty, with me, Caleb, but with me, Dylan, with me, Erica. I want to have that experience where they can't wait to tell their friends too. And sometimes, you also will lead them to the point of finality. Like today, I said, "Hey, I'm so happy for you, and then I'm sad for me." And I actually do the whole like, like what, because this is a happy moment, right? We just took the picture. Congratulations, closing something. I said, "I'm happy for you because now you're getting to enjoy this new house for the new year. But I'm sad for me because now I got to go out there and reproduce you guys. I've had such a great time working with you, Jeff and Kim. I would just ask you to do me a favor. Will you keep your eyes open for anybody that is also needing to buy or sell a home, especially something like you guys just did, this multi-generational home. It's a sweet property. You guys are going to enjoy it for many years to come. They're going to have 4 sets of generations on there. They got the kids, the grandkids, that mom and dad, aunts, uncles, then the grandparents. I mean, it's beautiful. And I said, I would really appreciate if you can put that together and just kind of keep that in mind. And so I'm kind of using a little bit of storytelling, but also kind of what my call to action form is kind of buried into that story. And they're like, oh, yeah, of course, you're awesome and stuff there. You were referred to us. So we're going to, of course, refer any of our friends and family. In fact, we have another house for you to do if you can next week. I'm like, I had no idea, guys. I was sitting on another deal and they just kind of, because they want to make sure this deal got closed. And then they're like, hey, can you help us with this other house? I'm like, yes, can I? For sure. So setting that up where you have kind of that little call to action and those little prompts, I think that was key too. I do that on every closing. I know it sounds kind of cheesy and stuff like that, but it works. The other one I do all the time is like, hey, I'm sitting at the kitchen table, because all the decisions are made at kitchen tables, right? Well, you may have a few on the hood of the car. I've done a few in Starbucks, but the majority of people make a decision of who they're hiring to sell their house or work with at the kitchen table. So I always go in there, hey, I wave a magic wand, and I do that with my hand. I'm like imagining a wand. I can get you 6 months from now, describe what this transaction looks like. And again, just shut up, take lots of notes, and then I can incorporate some stories that gonna match up with their expectation. It works like a charm. So
Horrible.
hopefully this is give you some nuggets there. Peggy's like, oh yeah, baby.
I saw her light up there too. Hey, if anybody on the call has a story that they use frequently that they want to, mention, I'm sure that James would be able to add comments to that if you wanted to, or,
Gina,
ask questions. What?
Gina,
Oh, Gina. Gina's a storyteller.
Go for it,
you're
baby.
just on mute.
I like her scarf, man. I dig it. She's really fashionista there.
Yes,
Oh,
she is. And as
And then
you
she
are
turned
as
off the
well.
camera.
You guys standing next to each other would be impressive.
Yes.
um, hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
now we can.
Okay, and I hope you can't hear the noise in here. I am
Not at all.
in Home Goods, which
Oh,
is uh, there's a lot of stories behind that one, but storytelling is my favorite thing ever. It's why I
cool.
go out when I'm a solopreneur,
Okay.
and so I've lived all over the world and experienced a lot of different cultures. And the thing that I've learned over time that has occurred to me is that we're all the same. We're more the same than we
Mm.
are different. And so when I think about meeting people anywhere I go, which I do, I don't know if you saw me smiling and waving at several people that were walking by while we were on this call, because um, they're watching me. They're just looking at me. They're like, who is that
Really.
sitting over there? And they're
Appreciate you.
smiling. they're smiling and waving, and I'm not even saying anything to them. I don't know them, right? But I think when you carry yourself in the energy of love and compassion, and also um, there's a quiet confidence that comes when you really embody curiosity.
Yes, for
You
sure.
guys understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Like, does that resonate? Because I I've been very fortunate and blessed to have had positions in places that were just based on me being open to having a conversation with someone. And so I could tell you stories all day long about all the experiences I've had around the world, but having a global heart, meaning I understand there's cultural differences, there's religious differences, there's political differences, um, and sexual orientation differences, color of our skin. It's even the way we dress, okay, the way we look, what kind of appearance, how do we show up anywhere we go, and you kind of have to first just be who you are. Who are you? You're a child of God. You're here for a purpose, a divine purpose, and most of us forget that. We get so caught up in the minutia of doing and being, and we forget to be, right? Just be who we are. I don't know. I do get a little bit nervous when I go on stage. For example, I'm thinking about the people in the room. Oh my God, what if when I start getting into ego about, what am I going to say that they want to hear? Who's going to want to listen to me? What kind of authority am I? I'm going all in on myself, right? So if I flip that script and say, for instance, every one of these people is a human being and they have something going on in their lives, something I know nothing about. But I've had a life that was very interesting and challenging, and it still is. And if I can just reflect that understanding somehow, there's a rapport it's not even voiced, it's not even vocalized, it's just there. Dylan, I'm sorry, I'm talking too long.
Oh,
He's
you're
got his
fine.
Dylan's got his hand up.
Dylan can't talk at all today because
Well, I don't
his
know. You hear me now? Can anyone
But
hear me? Yes, no?
Yeah,
Okay,
we
because
can
I
hear
was
you. You're
having
just
some,
muffled.
okay, because I was having some technical difficulties with my headphones, so I'm trying to use the computer speaker, and it doesn't pick up as well. But I wanted to ask James, like, what is the story behind the shoes, and like, where did the affinity for shoes start?
Oh, he's going to want to get the shoe story, folks. Okay. Well, we got a couple minutes. I'll try to abbreviate there. And sometimes you
and
got to
thank
do
you,
that.
Gina, for sharing. Dylan
Yeah.
popping in there is because
You.
of technical difficulties, not because
sure,
he wasn't
no
interested.
problem.
I love
Thanks
But,
this
for
story, James. So
but I do want to also give props to Gina because what she's talking about too is the story you tell yourself when nobody else isn't
yes,
listening. And
and
that
that
is
and
so
that's
true.
reflected in how
clear
you
that you
relate to
work
people,
on that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly, because we will talk to ourselves worse than we'll let anyone on this planet Earth ever talk to us. So make
absolutely.
sure to divorce that story if it's negative. Like I'm too fat, I'm too old, too this and that. It came from the wrong place, came from the wrong side. I got the wrong color skin. I come from the wrong ethnic. None of that matters. You all matter. You all are important to me. I love you all and stuff there. And I hope this has brought some insights to you, some things that you maybe not have thought of. But I think that is a key for Gina is just, hey, give her lots of props for saying, hey, what she did. Because I've worked on this version of James, but I always tell everyone, you do you, boo. You do you, boo. And that just kind of like gives permission. And I always say, hey, put your oxygen mask on first. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you do. Every time we got on flight, we always are told, take care of you so you can take care of others. But the shoe story started because I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan. I had no shoes. I had no good outfits. In fact, I have my cousin's hands me down still. And so when I grew up without a lot and I was made fun of and stuff, It was really a tough upbringing and stuff there. They say actually today, Flint, Michigan, still to this day in 2026, is the number one homicide capital of the country, United States. We have more homicides in Flint, Michigan than they do actually in New York. Go figure. New York City doesn't have the same per capita as Flint, Michigan. And that's where I grew up. So it was not just bad water, but it was bad elements, bad people, bad intention and stuff. And somebody really did not like me to the point where they would basically beat me up on the way to school, on the way home, made fun of and stuff. But somebody disliked our family so much that one night when mom put us kids to bed, this was in summer '76, somebody arsoned our house with us inside it. They barricade the front door and back door, put accelerant, kerosene on the front and back doors, set the house on fire with us in it. My mom had just put my little brother to sleep. He was just a newborn. She's 6 months pregnant with my little sis. Me and my sister, older, are in bed. Mom wakes up when my little brother cries. House is in flames. House is smoke everywhere. It's just terrible. Freaks out. Any moms in the room? Any of you guys supersonic hearing? You smell fire. You see smoke. You hear your baby cry. You know something's amiss. Mom comes in my room. I'm a sound sleeper. She opens the bedroom. Thankfully, we're in a one-story house, guys. Opens the bedroom window, kicks out the screen, lifts me up, puts me outside. I wake up as soon as I hit the ground, and she goes, "Call 911. Run across the street, call 911." My little 6-year-old feet are going as fast as I can. Call 911, and I'm thinking, I'm there seeing this unfold. The house that I was raised in, grew up in, is burning. And I'm thinking my family's inside. I thought my mom was dead. I thought my siblings were dead. And then my dad shows up. He had been at work, and they immediately put him in the back of a squad car, folks. So imagine little 6-year-old James not sure what's going on, seeing your dad handcuffed, put in the back of a police car because they want to question him, because they're like, why aren't you here? Why is your family inside a burning house and stuff? Well, they checked out his alibi. He was at work. His employees said, like, he couldn't have done it. He was here all day and stuff. So, but they then put us, reunited us together and stuff. But when you think you're going to lose everything you have in a few short minutes there, like your family and stuff like that, puts a lot of perspectives on you. And it puts you into a mode where you're just kind of questioning life. I was questioning a lot of stuff like, am I deserving to be alive? People must not like me enough. They don't like where I come from, my background, what I wear and what I dress. They try to kill me and my family. And I was constantly telling a story of unworthiness. Fast forward to Christmas that year, this Christmas '76, we were really struggling. We're living in the back of my dad's shop, TV repair place he had, living in motels, living in the back of the station wagon. We weren't going to have Christmas that year, guys. And all of a sudden, a couple days before Christmas, knock on the door, me go up, like, who's here? We're not expecting anybody. And it was the men's Shriners group. These big guys with the big funny hats and the little tassels and stuff. We're like, hey, is your mom or dad here? We're here. And I said, Mama, there's some funny guys with funny hats out here. She says, yes, can I help you? And they said, hey, we understand you guys lost everything in the house fire a couple months ago. We're here to bring you some Christmas cheer. Will you let us in? And folks, I got to see two dichotomies in a short period of time. A few months earlier, people didn't like me because of my skin color, my ethnic background, where we came from, tried to kill me. Now I've got these, I swear, they're angels, men's angels. They're coming in here from the men's Shriner group. They brought us a Christmas tree, brought us bags of groceries, brought us clothes. And Dylan, they brought me a pair of new Converse, the little Converse All-Stars. Anybody recognize that? Know what I'm talking about? The little white high top. First time in my life I've had a pair of new shoes. And what a dichotomy there. And after that, they gave my parents some monies. My parents got us into another house and moved out of that area of Flint to another part of town, started our life again. And I never forgot that. So fast forward now, I'm going through a thing with Tony Robbins. Any Tony Robbins lovers in the room? Okay. I've walked on fire 3 times, unleashed the power UPW. I've done His Date with Destiny. And at Date with Destiny, this was in 2016, 17, he was talking about, hey, divorce the stories of all this stuff. I'm not worthy. I'm not good. And all this stuff. And he says, and unleash all that good. Make a date with your destined person, what you desire in your life. And I knew that I was designed for more. So I kind of revamped James 2.0 came on. I started losing 3-piece suits, the boring shoes and stuff. I wore these fly outfits and shoes, and I wore these metal tip, I call them my Hugh Hefners. They're a velvet lined shoe, ladies, with brass that are bright as all get, big old eagle on them and stuff. There, I show up in something like, Hugh would wear. Okay, I call them my Hugh Hefners, and I show up at a business network meeting. And Dylan, I kid you not, this came out of the ladies. They're like, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I said, "Well, I just been Tony Robbins. I've really revamped myself, got these new outfits, new clothes, new shoes." She goes, "Oh my God, those are some Sharp shoes you have on." Last name Sharp, the shoes, you've seen them shoes earlier. It just kind of connected. And as luck would have it, my broker the next week said, "Hey, we're doing this big fundraiser. It's for City House charity. It's a it's a it's a halfway house. They take kids off the street, off of child protective services, off of runaways and stuff, and they rehabilitate these kids. They get them jobs, they get them back in schools, they fix them up with clothes and shoes." And I heard shoes. And I heard shoes from this big gala they had that night. My broker had bought a table, and he said, "James, you got a big heart. Why don't you come hear the story, raise a bunch of money. It's going to be an awesome deal." And I heard story after story, all these kids, kind of like one guy was on American Idol that came out of the program and had made his big claim to fame. But the director at the time said they need shoes for the kids at the halfway house, City House. And I said, I could do that. So from that little bit, I went out and I asked my friends, I asked my plumbers and painters and my trades, my HVAC persons, I asked my clients, I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this. Anybody got extra kids' shoes and stuff?" And I called the lady at the City House and I said, "Hey, how many shoes do you guys need on a day-to-day basis?" And she started getting really kind of emotional. She goes, "Oh my God, we have a need of 80 kids right now for 80 pairs of shoes." This was 2018. And I said, "Hey, I will do it. I will get you the shoes. Just tell me when and where, how many, what sizes, boys, girls, men, women." And apparently there's a big difference, folks, from a men's 13 to a kid's 13 taller shoe. Didn't know that at the time. I do now. So, but I went and go buy 80 pairs of shoes. I asked some other people, I give all these shoes. This is a couple days for Christmas. And I'm doing this through social media. So I'm doing the 12 days of shoes. I've gone through my closet, pull out some fun pairs of shoes. Anybody follows me, Sharp Realtor, you'll see I have all kinds of crazy shoes. And I've had all these good people. We donate 500 pairs of shoes Christmas of 2018. And I call up Mama. This is Christmas Eve. I said, "Mama," because she's not following me on social media. She's on Facebook, but she's not on Facebook, if everybody knows that deal. And I said, "Mom, I just delivered 500 pairs of shoes to these 12 groups. I not only did City House, but I did a bunch of other charities, all by word of mouth." And I said, "Now I know what it felt like for those guys, the Shriners, who delivered Christmas cheer all those years earlier." She's like, "Oh my God, I totally forgot about that." I said, "Mama, I sure didn't. The first time I ever had a new pair of shoes, I never forgot what I felt. And I felt like I had a new lease on life. I went back to school that after Christmas break, and I did all kinds of cool stuff. And then I said, now I've been able to pay it forward. I passed out 500 pairs of shoes. All these families got shoes now that didn't have them. I saw the kid's face light up, and I said, Mom, I just now know what it meant to like pay it forward." She goes, "I'm so proud of you, son. It means so much. Wow." And then I got the call that you never want to get. Literally 4 hours later, my brother calls. He's in frantic mode. He's like, "James, Mom's collapsed." I just talked to her 4 hours earlier. We were talking about getting together the next day, Christmas Day, for a family get together. He's like, "Mama's not breathing. Mama's collapsed. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, call 911. And which hospital are you going to?" And he told me hospital in Fort Worth. And I said, "I'll meet you there." And I run over there fast as I can, drive 100 mile an hour. It's an hour drive, thinking all the worst and stuff. Mom had had a stroke that evening. If anybody has family that's had strokes or know people, it really does a number for you. 6 weeks later, she had another massive stroke and we lost her February 1st, 2019. The last conversation I had with mom, because after that stroke, she was not able to talk any, was about the shoes. So as I looked over my mom, I got there at the very end. I had to put her in hospice, which was tough and all that stuff, but got the kids there. My kids got to say goodbye to Nana. As I held her hand, I said, Mama, I'm going to do this thing with the shoes. I'm going to do it in your honor. And I'm going to make you proud. 7 years later, folks, we've done over 44,000 pairs of shoes all over the country and all over the world, thanks to that one little hopeful deal with the Shriners. So you never know in life when an act of good is going to come back and ripple and do the butterfly effect. So hope you've enjoyed this little day. I hope this has been helpful. But yeah, that's the stuff with stories, Dylan. I wear shoes all over the place so people remember, like, oh, he's the shoe guy, but he's got also an awesome message of hope and encouragement. My hope and prayers to you guys is to have a great 2026. If your mom's still alive, do me a favor, give her a big hug for me, because I would do
Alive and
anything.
kicking.
One more hug with my mom. Okay. And that's why you have an awesome mom there, Kobe and Dylan.
Wow.
She's awesome. My mom, every time I deliver the shoes, it's like she's there. She's there looking down saying, that's my boy. And that's where, being authentic with you guys, it just, I love this business. I love what it's done. It's allowed me to put so many kids in the good spots, and I'm continuing to do that. So hopefully this has been a little encouragement to you guys. You do matter. Your stories matter. Your business matters. Go out there and make it a good one. And I love you guys.
Thank you so much,
Thanks for
James.
listening.
Thank you, James.
What a great way to start off 2026.
Yeah,
good
With
cry.
such an inspiring story.
We all need a good cry. Thanks for that, James.
This
Yeah.
was awesome.
You're like, great. My mascara is all over the place. Thanks. Thanks, James. Yeah. But no,
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. Like that one act of kindness has now rippled into thousands and thousands of stories of kids getting shoes now and stuff. And it's just a give back. Now it's a 501c3, and it's opened up all kinds of opportunities there. I don't do it for the business benefits, but my business is blown up by giving out. When you put out in slices, it comes back in loaves. So folks, I hope this has inspired you a little bit. Peggy's over there. Oh my gosh.
I'm crying.
All of us.
I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Eva, will you please get his address so I can do an Amazon drop pair of shoes to him? I mean, I have to.
Absolutely. Maybe
I always
Dylan
appreciate
would
that.
start something in New York, a division of sharp
Oh.
shoes.
Yeah. We do sharp
So-
shoes in New York. I've done it in
Can
other states. I've done it in other parts of the world. So happy to.
I want to just throw something in real quick. There's an agent in Naples, Florida, Fort Myers, where I am, Cindy Myers. I got invited to this Christmas tea, and she had 10 tables, and all of her girlfriends were responsible for decorating the tables and providing all of the goodies. They invited 10 of their friends, and the entry fee was a pair of shoes. Everybody had to bring a pair of shoes for foster kids in the area. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm hearing all these stories with shoes, but
There you go.
I got to get
Peggy,
you
I
some
just put my address
shoes.
in there for you. So anything
Yeah,
you guys
so
need,
I will get it to you too.
Thank you so much. I want him on Wake Up Wednesday.
I was gonna say, as we wrap up, Colby usually talks about our lineup for masterminds, but Peggy also has a Wake Up Wednesday call. So James, we'll share that information if you have the time and it's a good match. Peggy has a great. It's been around forever.
Thank you.
Colby, who's next on our
We
lineup?
have 10-time icon Elizabeth Riley coming on to talk about a referral-based business. First ever 10-time icon at EXP. She's a baller. Awesome luxury
and she's from
leader.
Texas. I'm going to throw it in there.
Also Texas. Oh yeah, January. It's our Texas guest month. Go figure. Yeah, so definitely I dropped the link. If you scroll up a little bit, you can see it. It's going to be great. It'll be in 2 weeks from now. And thank you all for being here. And thank you for sharing that story. I don't think that any of us will ever forget it. And now we know that when we refer business to you in Dallas, our clients and their work with you is going to help kids. And I think that that's awesome.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. And how I turn it into modern day stuff, I tell every client one things that differentiates me. Hey, when you list with me, when I sell the house, I'm going to go buy a dozen pairs of shoes from the proceeds.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
today I sold two houses. So I need to buy 24 pairs of shoes later tonight. How
Yeah,
cool is
people
that?
get to buy into what
oh,
is
Pay it
in,
forward. So they were
yes,
like, "Oh my god, that's so amazing, so cool and stuff." So, but if
there you
you
I
see
go.
love
me
it.
anywhere, you'll see me in fly shoes. You always got to comment, "Hey, that's the guy. He's got a shoe story." But look at his shoes too; they're pretty killer. So
He's got amazing shoes. You'll never not recognize him. You just have to look at those shoes and you know
yeah,
immediately. Anyway, thank you
I
guys. I know
appreciate
we
you
ran a
guys.
little
Thanks so
over, but
much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
appreciate you
Bye,
happy
all.
New Year.
everybody.
Thank
Happy
Thanks
New
for
you.
having me.
Year.
Bye.